Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yasodhanandana Braja Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Prabhupada Jaya Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivakadara Sarvasya His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahansa Prabhupada Sarvasya. His Divine Grace, Srila Bhaktivedanta Goswami Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Thakur Bhakti Vinoda ki jai. Srila Gokishore Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Sri Guru Parampara ki jai. Bhagavad Gita ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Shri Guru and Gauranga. Go Premananda Haribol. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, all together please. Om Jnana Timarandasya Ganandana Salakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Madhubhistam Stavitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yukta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Prijana Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padang Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapcha Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhana Sudadevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpadharubhyascha Kripa Sindho Bevacha Patitanam Pavnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary Srila Prabhupada. Today's verse number 9, chapter 8, entitled Attaining the Supreme. So, please repeat. Kavim, purāṇam, anuśāsitāram, aṇor, aṇīyāṁsam, anusmaret, yaha sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇam tamasaḥ parastāt kavim purāṇam anuśāsitāram aṇīyāṁsam anusmaret sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇam tamasaḥ parastāt kavim purāṇam anuśāsitāram aṇīyāṁsam anusmaret sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇam tamasaḥ parastāt kavim purāṇam anuśāsitāram aṇīyāṁsam anusmaret sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇam tamasaḥ parastāt. Okay.
purāṇam anuśāsitāram aṇīyāṁsam sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇaṁ tamasaḥ parastāt
āditya-varṇaṁ tamasaḥ parastāt kaviṁ purāṇam anuśāsitāram
kaviṁ purāṇam anuśāsitāram
aṇīyāṁsam anusmared sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇaṁ tamasaḥ parastāt.
Okay, please repeat. Kavim, the one who knows everything.
The one who knows everything.
Everybody. Purāṇam, the oldest. Anuśāsitāram, the controller. aṇoḥ, then the atom. aṇīyāṁsam, smaller. anusmaret, always thinks of. Yaha, one who. Sarvasya, of everything. Dhātāram, the maintainer. Acintya, inconceivable. Rūpam, whose form. āditya-varṇam, luminous like the sun. Tamasaḥ, to darkness. Parastāt, transcendental. So, translation Srila Prabhupada. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun. He is transcendental beyond this material nature. Please repeat. One should meditate upon the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental beyond this material nature. Purport Srila Prabhupada. The process of thinking of the Supreme is mentioned in this verse. The foremost point is that he is not impersonal or void. One cannot meditate on something impersonal or void. That is very difficult. The process of thinking of Krishna, however, is very easy and is factually stated herein. First of all, the Lord is Purusha, a person. We think of the person Ram and the person Krishna. And whether one thinks of Ram or of Krishna, what he is like is described in this verse of Bhagavad Gita. The Lord is kavi, that is, he knows past, present, and future, and therefore knows everything. He is the oldest personality because he is the origin of everything. Everything is born out of him. He is also the supreme controller of the universe, and he is the maintainer and instructor of humanity. He is smaller than the smallest. The living entity is 1/10,000th part of the tip of a hair. But the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. Therefore he is called smaller than the smallest. As the Supreme, he can enter into the atom and into the heart of the smallest and control him as the Supersoul. Although so small, he is still all-pervading and is maintaining everything. By him all these planetary systems are sustained. We often wonder how big these planets are, how these big planets are floating in the air. It is stated here that the Supreme Lord, by his inconceivable energy, is sustaining all these big planets and systems of galaxies. The word acintya, inconceivable, is very significant in this connection. God's energy is beyond our conception, beyond our thinking jurisdiction, and is therefore called inconceivable. Acintya. Who can argue this point? He pervades this material world and yet is beyond it. We cannot comprehend even this material world, which is insignificant compared to the spiritual world, so how can we comprehend what is beyond? Acintya means that which is beyond this material world, that which our argument, logic, and philosophical speculation cannot touch, that which is inconceivable. Therefore, intelligent persons avoiding useless argument and speculation should accept what is stated in the scriptures, like the Vedas, Bhagavad Gita, and Srimad Bhagavatam, and follow the principles they set down. This will lead one to understanding. Mukam karochi vachalam bhangam laite girim yad kripa tamam vande shri guru dhātāram kavim purāṇam anuśāsitāram aṇīyāṁsam anusmaret sarvasya dhātāram acintya-rūpam āditya-varṇam tamasaḥ parastāt. One should meditate on the Supreme Person as the one who knows everything, as he who is the oldest, who is the controller, who is smaller than the smallest, who is the maintainer of everything, who is beyond all material conception, who is inconceivable, and who is always a person. He is luminous like the sun, and he is transcendental, beyond this material nature. So yes, though this is in answer, if you remember last week we talked about how at the beginning of the chapter, I think 7 questions were asked by Arjuna to Krishna. And the last 2, who is this Lord of sacrifice? How does he live in the body, O Madhusudan? And how can those engaged in devotional service know you at the time of death? Right? Because Krishna has explained to Arjuna that there is reincarnation. This is in chapter 2, that we are eternal souls, we are in this temporary body, and when this body is done, somehow or other, then we will take another body. That is, if we remain within the material sphere. But Krishna is encouraging Arjuna, no, don't stay in this material world by maintaining material activities. Instead, engage in spiritual activities so that your destination will be transcendental. Right? We know in the Gita, what does Krishna say in another part? He says, those that worship the devatas go to devatas, those that worship the pritris go to the pritris, those that worship ghosts and demons, rakshasas, go to them, but those that worship me come to me. So we've discussed this point a lot. According to how we focus our intelligence and what goals we adopt, we will go in that direction at the time of death. So the devotee, basic principle is that he wants to go to the spiritual platform. He doesn't want to stay in the cycle of birth, death, old age, and disease. Material life is very boring. It's very boring to be born again and again and again. It's very boring to suffer birth, death, old age, and disease. It's very boring to be born again, have to go to school again, learn to walk again, struggle through life and then die. This is very boring. And it can continue for many, many, many lifetimes. So Arjuna is asking, how can we know you at the time of death when we leave the body? We saw that in 2nd chapter. Krishna made that first point. This is the first point, that when the soul leaves the body, according to the state, he will gain the destination. If we have concepts about our mother and father, those concepts and about our mother and father will take us to that destination. If we have concepts, say we like hang gliding. Now above Vrindavan they have this micro light, right? People are flying in the, I think it costs 3,000 rupees to fly around. Have you seen it? So some people, they go hang gliding. In Australia they have hang gliding races. They go a few hundred miles and they race each other. And then there's some people that like to jump in the ocean and go diving. So if you think about, oh, I love diving, then at the time of death you may become a porpoise or a shark, or if you're very heavy, you might become a whale. But if you like hang gliding, you may become an eagle flying in the sky, so on and so forth. Material nature will fulfill your desire. So, but that is always bad, because you're still in the cycle of birth, death, old age and disease. And this material nature, it is dull, unconscious. I often quote this sloka, but it's very pertinent. Prabhupada used to quote it. Vishnu Shakti Para Prokta Chetra Gyakya Tata Para Avidya Karma Samgyanya Tritiya Shakti Ishyate. The internal potency of the Lord Vishnu is spiritual, as verified by the Shastras. There is another spiritual potency known as the Chetra-gyam, or the living entity, the Jiva Shakti, that's you and me. The third potency, which is known as nescience, that's the material energy, makes the living entity godless and fills him with fruitive activities. Yes. O king, then the next sloka is, O king, the Chatra-gyan Shakti is the living entity. Although he has facility to live in either the material or spiritual world, he suffers the threefold miseries of material existence because, so why? This is a very important point. No sleeping in the class, please. He is, why? Here is the because, according to Shastra. Why are you in the material world? Why are we in the material world? Because he is influenced by the avidya nescience potency, which covers his constitutional position. So the constitutional position is Jivara Svarupoi Nichera Krishna Das, right? That is our constitutional position. We are transcendental beings, and we are meant to reciprocate with Krishna in bhakti, in prem bhakti. But we are covered by nescience potency. So how to get rid of the nescience potency? Siddhanta, Buliya Jeev, Bhogavancha Kore. The way you get rid of nescience, which is ignorance or false conceptions, is by correct conceptions. So therefore the first stage of becoming free of avidya and becoming qualified to enter the spiritual platform is by gaining siddhanta. That means the correct conclusion in three departments, in sambandha, abhideya and prayojan. If you understand sambandha, what is sambandha? It is the relationship between these three potencies that we said earlier. There is Krishna, he has the spiritual potency, he has the living entity, they're both spiritual, and then the nescient potency. So there's four categories. Krishna, the source, the spiritual potency, chit, the achit potency, this material dull matter, and the living entity. The living entity can go into either. He has free choice. So he is in the material energy and remaining in the material energy because of nescience. And the basic effect of nescience on the consciousness is to think, I am this body. Aham mameti. I am this material body. We look in the mirror, we shave the chin, we think, that's me. I'm looking good today. No, you're not looking good today. That's your material body that's looking good. So we identify with the body. That is the basic root of nescience. So what did Krishna say to Arjuna? You're not the body, Arjuna, you're a spirit soul. So this goes to the root of nescience, your eternal spirit soul. So then the next question is, okay, well, I'm going to die, so what's going to happen after death, right? This is going through the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says you will, he says that earlier, doesn't he? Whatever state of consciousness yes, it comes later. Yes, number 6, very famous verse. Yam yam vapi smaram bhavam. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, O son of Kunti, that state he will attain without fail. So according to your consciousness, your desires and your aparabdha karma, you will go to that destination. Therefore, human life means to become attached to transcendence. And this is what today's verse is about. Number 8, the verse before. He who meditates on me as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, his mind constantly engaged in remembering me, undeviated from the path, he, O Partha, is sure to reach me. Right? So, like I say, if we meditate on the fact that I love to go diving and surfing or hang gliding, or I like to go hunting in the woods, then that will define our next destination. So Krishna then says, therefore, Arjuna, you should always think of me in the form of Krishna. And at the same time, carry on your prescribed duty of fighting with your activities dedicated to me. Don't stop your activities, Arjuna. Do your activity as a Kshatriya on the battlefield, but dedicate it to me. It's your yajna, it's your offering. And your mind and intelligence fixed on me, you will attain me without doubt. So this is the whole point. Instead of having our mind attracted to the material energy, we should learn the spiritual energy from Shastra, Acharya and Guru. We should have a vision of the spiritual world. This is Prayojan Tattva, like I say, philosophy of Krishna consciousness, Sambandha, interrelationships between the material, spiritual, and Krishna and the living entity. And then Sambandha is the practice of devotion. And then Prayojan. So Krishna is the Prayojan, but we can expand that to the idea that Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem Sadhakavanai. That relationship with Krishna is prem. So how to evoke it? Here it is in today's verse, right? Kavim. One should meditate on Krishna as one who knows everything. Kavim. Purāṇam. He's the origin because everything comes from him. Janmadya Shyata. So in that sense, he's the oldest because everything comes from him. Anuśāsitāram. That means he is the controller. So we can think these things now. When we sit down to chant, we can think, yes, this is called Bhuta Shuddhi. When we chant, chanting is recommended with Siddhanta. We think, Krishna is the origin of everything. Krishna knows everything. He is the controller. We can evoke these thoughts in our mind before we chant and offer our chanting to Krishna. This is Avideya. Smaller than the smallest. Now, did you remember what Prabhupada said in the purport? Prabhupada said, the living entity, the spark, the little individual soul, is 1/10,000th the tip of a hair. If you took the tip of a hair, you cut it 100 pieces, then that one chota piece into 100 pieces, then you get 10,000. So Krishna said, if you remember, the living entity is 1/10,000th part, the tip of a hair, but the Lord is so inconceivably small that he enters into the heart of this particle. So Krishna enters into the soul. He enters into our soul. Often we see super soul here and the soul in paintings, right? Super soul with Paramatma. But Krishna is actually Atma. He is the soul of the soul. He is within the soul. The soul is very tiny, but Krishna, even though he is everything, he can enter in his full potency. He doesn't enter there with half his potency, but as himself, into the soul of the soul. So that's the meaning of acintya, inconceivable. Materially, that is not possible. One will talk about it in a minute. One should always think of that person as the maintainer, right? He's the origin, he's the maintainer. And he's inconceivable, whose form is luminous like the sun. Hiranmayena patrena. Krishna is effulgent. And he's transcendental. So we can develop that vision and train our mind to meditate upon that vision of Krishna, all these different hints of Krishna, all these aspects. So you might say, how can I do that nicely? Well, if you want to understand everything about Abhideya, you only have to remember 2 words from Krishna. Well, 3. Bhajitam priti purvakam. Right, you know in the Bhagavad Gita, the Chatusloki, so number 3, I think that's its 8, 9, 10. So Krishna says, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajitam priti purvakam. Those that worship me, priti purvakam. So Krishna is telling Arjuna, right, worship me, Arjuna. Meditate upon me in this way. This is upasana. So in the Gita later on he says, Bhajitam priti purvakam. Those who are always engaged in remembering me through Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu, Smaranam, Parasevanam, Archanam, Vandanam, Dasyam, Sakyam, Atma, Niveda, 9 practices of bhakti, Jaiva Dharma. Varnashram means to do your duties for Krishna, then it becomes karma yoga. But higher than that is Jaiva Dharma. This is the special province of the 6 Goswamis and Lord Chaitanya, Kali Yuga Avatar, giving full information. So he says, yes, hearing and chanting and remembering and padasevanam and archanam dasyam. So do that. That is higher, because that is direct to Krishna. But he says, Tesham satata yuktanam, those that are always united with me, bhajitam priti purvakam. How are they united? Bhajatam, they perform my bhajan, my upasana, my worship, priti purvakam. So that means the devotee is not meditating on Krishna in an impersonal way. Prabhupada started the purport that the Supreme Lord is always personal. You can't meditate very well on a void or an impersonal conception. They're the 3 conceptions of Godhead. The material scientist, void, there's no God. Then the impersonalistic, Mayavadi tendency, God is just energy. But Vaishnavism and the conclusion of the Vedas is that the parastāt, the Supreme Absolute Truth, is a person. So how do you meditate upon him? Okay, Krishna is saying, meditate him as knowing everything, the controller, the sustainer, the maintainer, within your heart, the soul of the soul. But then he gives this great information on Abhideya. Abhideya means the practice of bhakti, and that means priti purvakam. Now remember, the last few weeks we've been talking about how the karma yogi, he stresses work, and he may offer it to Krishna. He wants to do his material duty, but he does it as an offering to Krishna. Very good, excellent, no problem. So that karma yogi, when it's a broad spectrum. Then the jnani, he wants to use his intellect, maybe wants to study Sanskrit, all the Vedas, discuss this fine point of philosophy. Okay, and his aim is maybe knowledge. Karma yogi may be wanting elevation in some material sense. It's a broad spectrum. And then there is the Raj Yoga or the Astanga Yogi. He is meditating on Paramatma. Also there's a broad spectrum in this group, but he is interested in Kaivalya. I will meditate upon the Supreme Lord who is moving the stars and the planets, upon whom everything is resting. And I identify with that Supreme Lord. And I enter into Samadhi, with Super Soul. But the Bhakti Yogi, particularly those that are following Mahaprabhu, they are meditating upon the Supreme Person. Right? Brahmeti, Paramatmeti, Bhagavan. So that is Bhagavan, that is Krishna, that is Yasodanandan, that is the son of Nanda Maharaj. So, Krishna want to do smaranam, remembering me, do it with priti purvakam. That is bhakti. Do you understand? The bhakti, the basic principle of the bhakta, is different from the karma yogi, jnana yogi, asanga yogi. The bhakta is cultivating bhava, prem bhava. His goal is to increase his bhava. So Krishna is explaining that secretly in the Gita there. Bhajatam priti purvakam. Priti purvakam means bhajatam, worshipping me with priti, full of priti, loving affection. So the devotee, he meditates on Krishna as the oldest, as the one who knows everything, the controller. Yes, very good. But when he comes to Sanatan Dham, he's not meditating per se on Krishna as the supreme controller. He's meditating on Krishna more intimately, in his intimate position as Golokavasi, as the resident of Goloka, as the resident of Gokul, as the darling of Mother Yashoda, as the lover of the gopis and the beloved of the gopis, as the beloved of all the Brajabasis, and he is the lover of the Brajabasis, right? He is meditating upon the Supreme, the devotee, in that Goloka sense. So that aspect of Krishna as Vrajanandan Krishna, as the darling of Mother Yashoda, as the beloved of Radharani, the lover of Radharani, that is the most intimate aspect of the Supreme Lord. So Prabhupada translated Paramapurush as Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because there are acintya-rūpam, like we said in this verse, Krishna said, there are unlimited forms, and that is Krishna's ability. He can expand himself as forms. One form for Mahavishnu, one form as Garbhadakshay Vishnu. Now I'm going to incarnate here and I'm going to empower this. He expands himself in many ways. But Goloka Vasi, Sham Sundar, that is the highest form of Krishna. So that is what Mahaprabhu taught through the six Goswami, is the supreme object of meditation. And the devotees of Lord Chaitanya, Gaunitai, Panchatattva, they meditate on Goloka Krishna, Gokul Krishna, when he's having pastimes here, with priti purvakam. They are beyond Siddhanta. Siddhanta actually is to cancel nescience and to make us free of material confusion. So, Jaiva Dharma, 9 practices of Jaiva Dharma are for those that are liberated actually, or largely liberated from nescience. And they have now got attachment to Krishna. And so they meditate upon Krishna as the oldest and oldest, but with Priti Purvakam. So how we can, in the neophyte condition, when we're sadhakas, get this Priti Purvakam, right? We may think, yes, Krishna is Supreme Lord, He knows everything, but I don't feel Priti Purvakam, I don't feel loving attitude. Priti means affection, loving affection. How we can get that? So these items here, Atma, Krishna is the soul of the soul. Krishna is the origin. Like in this material world, we have affection for mother and father. They're our origin. They maintained us as children. They educated us. So we feel naturally, as we mature, some recognition, some affection for what they did. So we can develop Priti Purvakam if we meditate on Krishna, on these basic introductory aspects of Krishna, as the supreme controller, as the origin, as the maintainer, Suridam Sarvabhutanam, as the greatest friend. So like I say, before we chant or we study Bhagavatam, whatever, we can perform Bhuta Shuddhi. This is an important part of sadhana bhakti. To sit down and think, I am a soul. And Krishna is that. Now I'm going to chant japa, but I'm going to offer it with Priti Purvakam. Then you're a bhakta. Do you understand? Then you're a bhakta. You're a bhakta when you're not searching for knowledge or good karma, going to Swargalok or mystic powers through Kevalya. You're a bhakta when you are offering bhakti with your heart. When you're thinking, Krishna, I'm chanting, so please accept my chanting. Please enjoy my chanting. It's my offering to you. You are my origin. You are my maintainer. You're my greatest friend. You have entered into my soul. You are Atma. You are within my soul. You have done so many things. Now I appreciate that, and I offer my chanting, my study of Bhagavatam, my cooking of prasad, bhog for you, my padasevanam, my meditation on your form and pastimes. I do it with Priti Purvakam. Do you see the point? This is very important. Because then what will happen? Ye tam mam prapadyante tam staiva bhajamiyaham. If we offer our chanting with Priti Purvakam, with some awakening, even if it is intellectually conceived, affection for Krishna, if we are offering Priti Purvakam, Krishna says, all of them as they surrender to me, I reciprocate accordingly. Right? So if we are offering Priti Purvakam to Krishna, Krishna will reciprocate with Priti Purvakam to us. You understand the point? If you, and not you, if one chants like a parrot, then that's the reciprocation you get. But if you chant with Priti Purvakam, Krishna will reciprocate with Priti Purvakam. Then you're on the path of bhakti. Then you know everything about how to reach perfection. Priti Purvakam. And therefore Prabhupada says, remember the purport at the end? Prabhupada said, therefore we should just accept the authorities' designations or suggestions and do our bhajan. Now we can inquire and think all philosophically and all this and that, but we should understand what Abhideya is in essence. It is to offer this feeling of affection to the Supreme Lord. And Krishna will reciprocate in that way. And then you'll have more Priti Purvakan to offer to him. You'll have 5%. And he'll offer 6% back to you. And then you'll have 6% to offer to him. And then in one lifetime you can attain perfection. And you know what is bhakti then. If you know this, if you know Priti Purvakam, if you understand this, Abhideya, you know Prayoja, Krishna is Bhagavan, then, you're on the path of bhakti. You see the point? Because you're reciprocating with Priti. Now, so Krishna in today's verse, he gave that basic principle. You can say it's like generic idea of Bhagavan. He's the supreme controller, the most potent, he knows everything. But then, later on, Prabhupada explains what we were talking about earlier, about Brajanandan Krishna, Nanda Maharaj. There's a purport. Yes. This is in verse number 14, which is, for one who always remembers me without deviation, and very easy to do, because if you practice remembrance with Priti Purvakam, then you'll get rasa, right? If we don't get the spiritual rasa, we'll tend to go back to the material rasa, because we're searching for rasa, for enjoyment, right? So we must know how to get the spiritual rasa, and this is Priti Purvakam. Who remembers me without I am easy to obtain, because of his constant engagement in devotional service, Priti Purvakam. Now in the purport, yes, at the end of the purport, as indicated by the word satatam and nityasaha, which means always, regularly, every day, a pure devotee constantly remembers Krishna and meditates upon him. These are the qualifications of the pure devotee for whom the Lord is easily attainable. Bhakti yoga is the system that the Gita recommends above all others. Generally, bhakti yogas are engaged in 5 different ways. Shanta Bhakta, engaged in devotional service in neutrality. Dasya Bhakta, engaged in devotional service as servant. Sakya Bhakta, engaged as friend. Vatsalya Bhakta, engaged as parental mood. 5. Madhurya Bhakta, engaged as conjugal lover of the Supreme Lord. So, the cultivation of these 5 moods, Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya, I think you all know of these, right? These moods, this is the special province of Jaiva Dharma, or Sanatandam, the practice. So the point is that we may start off with Krishna, worshipping Krishna, Supreme Lord, knower of everything, and this is excellent. It will clear nescience. We will realize Krishna. We will realize everything is resting upon Krishna, ourselves included. We will realize that. But then, we will become attracted to Krishna. We're practicing Priti Purvakam. So when we chant, we feel a mellow feeling in the heart. Oh, Krishna is pleased with my chanting, and he is pleased. And so you're developing a direct relationship with Krishna. But when you realize Krishna in this way, just like mother and father, they meditate on their children, but they don't just meditate on the child as a child. they meditate on the child according to the rasa. The child meditates upon the mother and father as my maintainer. The parents meditate on the child as the child. So attraction between the parent and the mother and father has a mellow. This is called rasa. So as one realizes Krishna more, the particular rasa or mood of attraction for Krishna will become prominent. And that is your constitutional nature. It is constitutional to the soul. Everyone has a constitutional relationship to the Supreme Lord. So when we develop in Krishna consciousness, what we find is, as Prabhupada pointed out here, 3 or 4 purports later on, that we will become attracted as Shanta, Dasya, Sakya, Vatsalya, Madhurya Ras. Now, Narada Muni has given the Pancharatriki Vidhi, Panch Anga, the 5 practices for Kali Yuga, particularly. Number 5 is called Swajaya, own Swajaya meditation. The first 4 are to do with Vidimag, right? First 4 is Abhimanya, how to get up and be clean, and then Upachaya, bring the articles for puja, meditation, offering. Number 3 is yoga, meditation, like I say, Bhuta Shuddhi, I'm spirit, so now I'm going to offer these articles to Krishna. Number 4 in Pancharatrika is the actual yoga. Number 5 is Ragmarg. That is Vidimag, 4 things. Ragmarg 4. That Ragmarg is, like I say, Swajaya. That means one's own particular meditation based on what? One's awakening swarup, one's awakening relationship with the Supreme Lord. You understand this point? Because just like the mother and father, they have a particular way of looking. A girl and boy, they love each other in a particular conjugal mood, material, but they have a mood. They're not just attracted, they're attracted in a rasa. So as you realize Krishna, you will realize your mood of attraction. So Swajaya, Jaya means contemplation, Swa, your own contemplation. So that means that when you chant, or you study Bhagavatam, or you do Smaranam, or Lila Smaranam, you meditate first, you conceptualize yourself in your awakening Swarup. This is, I wouldn't give this in front of the public, but this is the more fine, elevated practices of bhakti. This is how you can get Swarup Siddhi in this very life. You first you go to Krishna as the supreme controller and maintainer, but then you go through bhakti, and Krishna is Brajanandan, he's Jai Radha Madhav, was what we sing. And then your particular attraction, if you are following regulative principles and keeping, not eating material food, and if you're living a pure life, self-controlled, then your attraction to Krishna will wake up. So Swajaya, number 5 of Pancharatriki practice, is that you should chant with that awakening mood. So that your Priti Purvakam is not just a general kind of affection, which it may be at the beginning, but it's a mood of awakening Stahibhav, one's relationship with the Supreme Lord. Do you understand that point? You understand this point? Because you all have that. You all have constitutional nature. So the devotee, he worships Krishna in, just like I said, Bhuta Shuddhi. When we do puja, we think, I am Angsa of Krishna. I'm going to worship Krishna. But Swadhyaya means I worship with my particular awakening mood. And I am cultivating that by remembrance and by practicing bhakti in that mood. Do you see the point? Is it clear? Yes? And then bhakti will progress very nicely. Then you're on Bhakti Marg. Then you're following 6 Goswamis. Then you're following Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Then you're saying Nityananda. Then you're a bhakta. Because you're cultivating bhakti, priti purvakam, in a certain mood. And it will develop in reciprocation with the Supreme Lord. You understand? So this is the special benediction of the Vaishnavas, of Panchatattva, of Krishna, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, Bhakti Siddhanta, Bhakti Vedanta Prabhupada, all these great acharyas. This is their message that of bhakti. Just like Prabhupada said in the purport, bhakti yoga is recommended. But we should understand what bhakti yoga is. It means union with Krishna, yoga, through priti purvakam. And that priti purvakam, as you practice it and you keep purity in your personal life, okay. Is that Ravana? So, anyway, if you, this is the final point. Can you tell them to stop, or somebody tell them to stop? Anyway, if you practice this yoga in this way, with priti purvakam, this is the important point. And then priti purvakam at the beginning generally, but then as your relationship wakes up, you worship in a certain mood. So then the acharya, this is rag marg. And then you study the lila in the light of your awakening mood. You understand? You're awakening to Sakya Ras in your heart. It's constitutionally awake. So then you read the Leela of Krishna, Bhagavatam, Goswami literature, about particularly the cowherd boys. And you try to pick up their mood. And this resonates with your awakening mood, and you develop spiritually. And then you go back to Godhead, you go back to Golok, Vrindavan. So, this is not very good. We didn't have this at Namisharanya. So, okay, we'll finish on that point. So remember, when you chant Priti Purvakam, try to understand, oh Krishna, you my creator. I offer my chanting with loving affection. Then you're on Bhakti Marg. You understand? Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Okay, any question? It's a bit difficult. Can you tell them to stop for 5-10 minutes? He wants it. Oh, you ask quick question.
Yeah, like today I came to know, thanks for the wonderful class. Today I came to know that Paramatma is
No, speak loudly, so everyone can hear.
Yeah, today I said like Paramatma is I was assuming that Paramatma and Atma are separate, that Paramatma is separate. And see, Paramatma is sitting in one tree, is watching I was assuming that Paramaatma is they are separate, two and the heart as well. But here,
Yeah, he's the soul of the soul. Atma, Atma. But also there are descriptions in the Shastra that Paramatma is within the heart in the size of a thumb, or there's different descriptions. So we have to blend all those ideas together. But Prabhupada's making the point, you know that verse in earlier, Matak Parataram Nanyad Kinchit, everything is resting upon Krishna, just like the thread is within the beads. So everything is resting upon Krishna. And remember what we've discussed in previous classes. Two aspects to understanding Krishna. One aspect is that Krishna is scientific. You know, the material world is logical. Atoms and molecules, laws of physics. But Krishna is above. He is the creator of those laws, but he is inconceivable. There is no laws on him. He is the absolute truth. So absolute means without restriction, without, completely independent. You know, Krishna just desires something and it comes into being. Just like I said, when Mahavishnu glances upon the personification of the material energy, this creates the three modes of material nature, and this. So you cannot calculate how the time factor creates the three modes of material nature in a purely scientific way, atoms and molecules and physics. It is not on the basis of physical laws, it is on the basis of Krishna's desire. And that is transcendental, that is inconceivable. But this material world is conceivable. You know, atoms and molecules, hydrogen and oxygen make water and so on. This is all very logical in this. But beyond that, Krishna transforms and creates without reference to a scientific paradigm, particularly above the time factor. Everything under the time factor, we discussed last week, is limited and temporary in the scientific world. But Krishna is free. Just like in the Bhagavatam it says that in the Ras Leela was one night, but it went on for one night of Lord Brahma. So how is that possible? Huh? That is not material logic or scientific, but it is Krishna's potency. It is his acintya potency. So both must be there. Ultimately, we are dealing with acintya, and that is the subject of the realization of Krishna. We want to realize Krishna in his acintya shakti. So his acintya shakti is manifest most in the spiritual world. That is the eternal Leela.
Let me say that Krishna knows the present, past and future. Kavim. Yeah. When we say future, does it mean that he knows this living entity is going to come in this in that particular life back to God?
Yes, he knows everything. But the question you're going to ask is, then does he make that happen? No. He knows what you will do. You understand? Just like if I'm on a mountaintop, I can see a train going along into the tunnel. But I'm not making it go into the tunnel. But from my perspective, I can see the train is going to go in the tunnel. So Krishna knows everything, but he doesn't interfere with the operation of our free will. You understand? But he knows how we will use our free will. And also another factor is, you're talking about the intervention of Krishna, but Krishna maintains the prerogative that through conscience, he will say, don't do this, do that, don't do that, don't become a bank robber, don't become a thief, don't be a liar, don't be a ruler. He will do that. But sometimes we override our conscience. The conscience is Krishna in the heart saying, don't do that, it's not good. Huh? You understand? So Krishna maintains the prerogative, but he doesn't interfere if we insist on doing something.
So where is the question of free will there?
Well, that's what I'm saying. He's facilitating our free will.
Okay.
But he knows how we'll use it. You understand? He's detached. He's maybe not happy with how we're using it because it's self-destructive or it doesn't bring a good result. But he lets us operate. He lets us learn the hard way, if you like. So Krishna maintains his position of detachment. Many people say that. But if you think clearly, it's not logical. Oh, Krishna knows what I'll do, therefore he's responsible for what I do. There's no logic in that. I know that you're driving to Delhi. That means I'm making you drive to Delhi? No. You see? So this is nescience. This is the nescience policy. Oh, Krishna knows what I will do, therefore he's responsible. I robbed the bank, why he didn't stop me? Judge, Krishna didn't stop me from robbing the bank, so he's responsible. No. You're responsible. You didn't take Krishna's guidance in the heart. Don't do it, don't do it. So we have to take responsibility. Yes, go on.
He's the cause for all causes, right?
Huh?
He's the cause for all causes, right?
He's what?
He is the cause for all
Cause for all
causes.
the causes, right?
Cause of all causes.
Yes.
Yeah. So?
The Prabhu, like the confusion.
Well, he's the cause of all causes, but does that mean that he is responsible for everything you're doing with your free will? Do you understand? Where's the logic in that? He's the cause of all causes. Therefore,
So he's responsible.
yeah, but look, say I give you 1,000 rupees and you go out and buy daru, get drunk. Am I responsible for that? No, you did it. If I give you 1,000 rupees and I say, look, all the Shastra says use this nicely in Krishna's service. Buy some garland. I'm sorry, it's a bit of an insult. But say you don't use that 1,000 rupees properly. Right? You like that, you know, it's holy, so let's go crazy. So I'm not responsible for what you do. I'm the cause of you having 1,000 rupees, but what you do with it, you are primarily responsible. Right? So Krishna gives free will, but he's not primarily responsible for how we use it. And without free will, we're not living entities. This has no free will. The microphone cannot say, I don't like what he's saying, therefore I'll turn off. The material energy has no free will. The spiritual energy is full of will and desire and rasa. You understand? So we are living entities with free will, but we are not using our free will properly because of nescience. Therefore, the first thing is abhideya prayojan sambandha.
I would like to know that why do we fall from the spiritual sky in the first place?
Say again?
Why do we fall from the spiritual sky in the first place?
Well, we don't. Well, we fall from Tatastha. We're Tatastha Shakti. We're Tatastha Shakti. So we choose the material world rather than the spiritual world. We choose engagement in trying to be the Supreme instead of serving the Supreme. We discussed it last week, right?
Yeah. But I would like to they say that spiritual sky, everybody is. And they say that in spiritual sky, everybody is serving Krishna. And everybody.
But we're not falling from Golok. We're Tatastha Shakti. We're falling from Tata, the line between matter and spirit. And when we come out of Susupti, creational Susupti, we choose the service of Krishna or the service of ourself. it's a very fine, complicated issue. And I've studied it, for 20, 30 years. But basically, we are here by choice. Instead of choosing to go to Krishna and serve, we're choosing to go to Maya and serve ourselves. That's why we're called Tatastha, situated on the line Jiva. Now, there are people that will tell you, we were all in Golok, Vrindavan, and we became envious. So that means Goloka is imperfect place. Now look, and Krishna doesn't agree with that. Here's number 15. After attaining me, the great souls who are yogis in devotion never return to this temporary material world, which is full of miseries, because they have attained the highest perfection. So if you're in Goloka, you have the highest perfection, you never come here. Now verse 21, you should also read, that which the Vedantists describe as unmanifest and infallible, that which is known as the supreme destination, that place from which, having attained it, one never returns, one never falls, that is my supreme abode. 15 and 21. Once you attain Goloka, so this idea that in Goloka everyone is waiting to become envious and fall to the material world, it's not Shastric. It's not Shastra. It's not. Krishna says, once you attain me, you never fall.
I heard that Prabhupada audio that said that 97% of souls exist in Goloka and 3% of souls exist in material world.
Say again, 90%?
Like 90 to 92% of souls that exist in this world exist.
Well, I never heard that. But I heard estimates that Prabhupada said 99%. But you have to understand, when these figures are mentioned, this is for our understanding. You understand? It's not meant 99% precisely down to the last one. This means mostly people go to the spiritual world, but some choose to go to the material world, come under nescience and try to enjoy. That's what people are doing here. They're trying to be Ravana, they're trying to be the big controller. In the material world, everyone wants to be number one. This is the material world. Everyone's trying to be the supreme, instead of being the servant of the supreme. So therefore they get caught in nescience. But in Goloka, nobody falls. Krishna, I just read you 2 slokas. One who attains my abode, one who attains me, never. Also there's Purna Janma Navidyate 4:11. So nobody falls from the spiritual world. Okay, we have to finish now because it's time and other programs here. So look, you get Jaiva Dharma and read chapter 15. Jaiva Dharma, Bhakti Vinod Thakur, and read chapter 15. Everything is described there. Or you can also get I taught this, spoke about this last week in more detail. It may be still on their website, and there's more discussion there. But you see, the thing is, Prabhupada said simple things at the beginning, because to understand the Tatastha Shakti, you have to know what the Tata is. What is the line dividing? What is the spiritual world? What is the pradhan? What is free will? All these concepts are not so easily conceived when one is full of nescience. Now, if one is liberated soul, one, a Mahajan is liberated, then he automatically understands everything. So, Prabhupada often said things in a simple way: go back home, back to Godhead. Right. But he never said go back to Goloka, because we haven't gone to Goloka. If we went to Goloka, we would never come to this world. You see my point?
Okay, so
You just understood the point. But people think, Prabhupada said go back to Godhead. That means go back to Goloka. No, Godhead and Goloka are two different things. Huh? But that's what I'm saying. When people are in nescience, their mind is cloudy, their sense of knowledge of Shastra, their realization is less. So therefore they don't get Siddhanta automatically. So you have to go to Guru. You have to go to realized devotee. You have to go to Mahajan. You have to go to commentator. You have to go to Shastra. And there you will hear the Mahajans, the Siddhas, explaining Siddhanta properly. But if you, like you said, I heard from, back to Joe, in the restaurant, he was eating a samosa and he said, Prabhupada said 90% go to spiritual world. I don't understand. You understand? Now back to Joe, may be a wonderful devotee. But if you want Siddhanta, go to Mahajayana Katasva Pantha. You go to the Mahajan. You understand? Just like if you want a medical diagnosis, you don't, everyone in India is a doctor, right? Oh, don't eat this, don't eat that. Everyone is a doctor in India. But if you want a good medical diagnosis, you go to a doctor. You don't go to the guy on the street corner, right?
Maharaji, I heard that Prabhupada said that about 90% of souls live in Vrindavan and
I heard.
Only 6-7% of souls live in this material world.
Oh yeah, that's another thing. Yes,
That's what I heard.
You see, yes, that's correct. For our understanding, it's explained the material world is a small fraction of the unlimited creation. The material creation is a limited function. But actually, the spiritual creation is unlimited. There's no and. It's not that the spiritual world comes to an end and after this, there's nothing. Nothing doesn't exist. There is only existence. Try to understand that. So the spiritual world is unlimited existence. But the material world is limited function, limited spirit souls, under the time factor manifested and dissolved. So it's different.
I'm not saying that 90% souls go to Golu. I said that the...
Yeah, okay, I interrupted you, sorry.
No,